Once Nokio switched schools, he met Jazz. And so once he met Jazz at the new school that he went to, it was like Sisqó, guy named the same guy, Chris, that what I told you was more like a comedian or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he could cut hair. Yeah, those Sisqó, Chris, Nokio, and Jazz. Once they met Jazz at the new school, so
Okay.
because Brevet went to school with me, he ended up stopping singing with him too, and we had our own little group that used to sing that stayed at the school. But that group, the original group, they went on and they were doing like talent shows. They opened up for different comedians. Like they were just meeting people because they sounded good. And so they would go and do shows with different comedians, Chris Tucker and,
Wow.
like different rap shows and stuff like that. They would open up and they ended up getting a deal without me. So there was a development deals with Atlantic Records. And they used to come up to the school with brand new clothes on and stuff like that, like looking like they come off of TV and
Wow.
playing me music that they did in the studio and stuff like that. But the whole time they would come and check in with me, like, man, we wish you still could sing with us or whatever. So eventually, what happened is we
But what about
graduated.
the name? There was a name already? Did they have a
No,
name?
no, no. Their
What were
name
you called
came.
then?
They were called Legacy, and it was
Legacy.
like an acronym. It's like letting. It was spelled Legecy. First, they were called 14 Karat Harmony, like 14 Karat Gold, or whatever, like pure harmony. And then they switched to Legacy, which meant letting every generation encourage the coming youth. They spelled it Legecy.
Okay.
And they would do like all these different studio sessions and stuff, and they would come up to my school and let me hear the music that they recorded. And like, man, we wish you could still sing with us. So what ended up happening is when we graduated from high school, which was the reason, like that was the reason my mom gave. She really didn't want me singing because she used to be to a certain extent like behind the scenes in the gospel side of the music industry, and she
Mm.
saw things that she didn't like. So she really didn't want me involved because she felt like I would get involved in some of the things that she saw. That was the real reason, and we talked about that later. But at that time, her answer was just like, "Nope, as you're not doing good in school, you ain't singing with them boys." So I never got it together in school. So finally, once I graduated, they came to me and said, well, now that we're not in school no more, you think your mama let you sing with us? I said, I don't know. I asked her. And I don't think she said yeah at that time. So then they came back to me again. And after they were able to get out of the development deal, because they never got put out. Like they had them signed, but they would never put out any of the music they recorded. So they wanted out of it. So once they got out of it, they came to me and said, if we do gospel music, do you think your mama let you sing with us? So I asked her and she agreed to that. So we became a gospel group and we used to go to different churches. Like we would get gigs at churches on Sundays and we
Well,
would
at
go
this
on.
time there was both Nokio and
Yeah,
Jazz
it was
from
the
the
whole
church.
group that came out that you saw on the first two albums. It was
Yeah,
all of
no,
us.
but were they also into church families? Because I know you mentioned
Jazz
Cisco.
very much so. Jazz very much so. He grew up in his dad and his family used to have a quartet group. And I
Wow.
don't know if you know, but Casey and JoJo grew up for a time in Baltimore as well.
Okay.
So the group that Jazz's dad used to sing with used to do show. They used to open up for Casey and JoJo. They were called Little Cedric and the Haley Singers when they sung gospel music. Casey
Wow.
was like 12 years old and he used to have his own quartet, him and his dad and his family, they used to sing. So
Okay.
Jazz, to the point where the first time we met Jodeci, all the rest of us were in the audience and Jazz was backstage. Jazz's dad was backstage in Casey's dressing room at the show.
Okay.
So like he was heavy into gospel music. Like his whole family, his mom sings, dad sing, all his sisters and brothers sing. I think his uncles and aunts, all of them, like they heavy in the church, heavy into gospel and stuff like that.
And then what
Sisqó
about
also.
Cisco? Yeah, Cisco. Oh,
Sisqó, his mom, I mean his aunt is a well-renowned gospel choir directress around Baltimore City as well. So he was heavy into it. Nokio, not so much. He ended up at one point he quit the group when we became a gospel group, and it was just the three of us. It was just me, Sisqó, and Jazz doing a lot of the shows and stuff like
okay.
that.
So he didn't think it was gonna go anywhere.
No, I mean, I think he just didn't feel it. Like that wasn't the type of music that resonated with him or that he envisioned himself making. You know.
Yeah.
He ended up coming back, but it was
Yeah.
just a period of time where he wasn't doing it. But after a while, he came back.
So how did you guys do when you were doing the gospel then? What was the difference when you did the gospel compared to when they were doing the R&B?
Basically, just what we were singing about for real, because like we would show up looking like a hip hop group or whatever, because like we wore whatever was popular at the time, and that was the thing. Like we would show up. This is around the time when everybody was wearing like hockey jerseys, like the early
Yeah,
'90s, hockey jerseys and baggy jeans and Timberlands, and we would show
yeah.
up like in a church. And Sisqó hair was blonde at that time too, because like
What?
yeah,
Wow.
so it was just like looking at the group that came out, but and just singing a song, singing about the good Lord as opposed to singing about girls. And
But
it
how
was
did
like
how did the audience respond to seeing you guys looking like Jodeci but singing like the Winans?
the people our age loved it. The girls and even the guys like used to give us dap and stuff like that. Like they loved it. But the pastors sometimes would make little comments like, "Oh yeah, we need to kick up a collection for these guys so they could buy some better clothes to wear ahead of next time they come and sing and stuff like that." So it was cool. It was edgy, and like I said, like I was saying earlier, it was kind of tough for me because like sometimes they would book an engagement or whatever, because even we still had the manager with us, so he would book us to be able to sing at these churches. So it was actually like paid gigs, and my
Wow.
mom would still be like, "Oh, you better make sure it's not a Sunday. Let me call down the church and see if they wanted you to sing this week, because if they want you to sing, then guess where you ain't going." You ain't
Wow.
going with them old darn boys. You going right down here to the church. And so a lot of performances, a lot of times I sung at my church, I sung with an attitude at that time. And it was crazy because like, you know how some people operate good when they mad, like the Credible Hulk. Like he
Yeah, yeah,
turns
yeah.
stuff up because he mad, but he actually doing good stuff. So it's like that was some of my most well received performances, but I really had an attitude because I wanted to be with my group. And I
Yeah.
was like, my mom was like, "Nope, you're not going. You're gonna be over here at the church because
Wow.
they made you first. So they had you first." So eventually that was going good for me, but eventually the guy who got them the deal with the Atlantic Records, he was still had his own label and stuff. So he called and asked us to try gospel music. I mean R&B music one more time. And at that point, I had to get my pastor involved because like my mom, we just couldn't like we never argued. I was always like the kid that just went along with whatever my parents said or whatever like that.
Mm.
So that was one thing, one time that I stood up to my dad was pretty much neutral too. Like he's just cool. He's just a cool guy. Like whatever my mom, he just wanted peace in the house. Like what
Yeah.
the a lot of them guys say, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was that because my mom was like his dream girl. So he just let whatever go, whatever. Like he ain't really give an opinion or whatever. He just like whatever you say, Joe, and that was it. So like but me and my mom had like butt heads for the first time ever. And I was like, normally I would just back down, but at that I just refused to back down at that time. So I made a suggestion, like if we asked my pastor at the time, and he says it's okay, then would you let me do it? And she said that sounds fair enough. So we went to my pastor, and what ended up happening is his son was a musician and he was in Germany, like over there playing at jazz music. So he's a jazz pianist. So his job was to be over in Germany playing jazz music, which is
Wow.
also not gospel music. So he was like, like basically it would be hypocritical for me to say that he shouldn't be able to do it if my son is over here doing what he's doing. So he's basically like, as long as you keep what you were taught and the way that your parents brought you up, like you said earlier, as long as you keep those things in your heart and what they say, train up a child the way he should go, and when he gets
Yeah.
older, he will not depart from it. So his thing was, as long as you keep those same things that you were brought up in and keep your roots and stuff like that, I think you'll be all right. So my mom, I left there happy, and I was taunting my mom, and she ended up giving me the solid treatment for like a couple hours, which felt like a couple days because I'm just like these guys not being on good terms. But after that, she pretty much let me do it. You know.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.